Hey, it's John, back with another comparison video. The reason I do this, and people have asked, I think everyone's familiar with the film Blade Runner. A movie with just about a jillion different versions, all available to watch in one convenient box set whenever you want. Or there was anyway, I can't keep up with what's in or out of print. But the fact is, most movies go through the same creative process as Blade Runner. The director gets to prepare their version, then producers and money people get to see it, or test screenings are held, then changes are suggested and or made. Different versions are often prepared for different territories. Sometimes the director just wants to make changes. But whether these changes are noted on the box you bought the movie in, or the streaming service you would like to watch it on, that can be another story. Of course, not every movie gets as many variations as Blade Runner, but big and small changes are made to more movies than you might think, without you knowing. With that in mind, I would like to talk about one of my favorite movies, Picnic at Hanging Rock. Based on the 1967 book by Joan Lindsay, Picnic at Hanging Rock tells the story of three Australian schoolgirls and their headmistress that go missing during a Valentine's Day picnic at the start of the 20th century. Though the book and film present their events as fact, it's likely Lindsay has transposed some of her own youthful experiences onto the real-life tragedy of three young boys that went missing in June 1867, their bodies found in the Australian outback 3 months later, the crime remaining unsolved. Since you're watching this, you probably already know that, spoiler alert, both book and film are famous for having unresolved, open endings. Watches stop, clothes go missing, and only one girl is found, but with no memory of what happened. A lack of resolution is always going to annoy somebody, but by staying mysterious, both the book and film invite people to try and pick up on clues and solve the puzzles for themselves. The book, ironically, did get a resolution, published in 1987 after Joan Lindsay's death as The Secret of Hanging Rock, which includes a chapter reportedly removed at the suggestion of the editor explaining what happened to the missing students. I'm reluctant to recommend it though. Some question its authenticity, but I think more importantly it spoils what's unique about Picnic. Whether this missing chapter is real or not, Lindsay never mentioned it to the filmmakers, who were left to come to conclusions on their own. The process of turning the book into a film began in 1973 when Patricia Lovell picked up the rights. Lovell was an actress and television presenter with little producing experience, but showed keen instincts selecting Cliff Green to write the screenplay, who proven himself to be a prolific and talented writer for television, and Peter Weir, an up-and-coming director with a handful of strange shorts and an equally strange feature to his name. Weir enlisted the producers on his previous feature to assist Lovell, along with artistic advisor Martin Sharp, a pop artist that receives credit above the film's assistant directors. Crazy as that may seem, Sharp was somewhat famous at the time. He was heavily involved in the controversial UK-Australian underground publication Oz, and associated with the rock group Cream, creating the cover art for their Disraeli Gears and Wheels of Fire albums, also writing the lyrics to their song Tales of Brave Ulysses. For Picnic, Sharp made the collages for Sarah's scrapbook and other such items, and gave notes on other significant visuals, particularly the birth of Venus and swan imagery seen throughout. This was Weir's movie though, and he had free rein to do whatever he wanted. This included switching the actress that plays Miranda not once but twice, and working with D.P. Russell Boyd to shoot the scenes on the rock at just the right time each day to capture the appropriate light and feel. This occasionally put a strain on the schedule and crew due to the unpredictable weather and technical problems that go with location shooting. Most of you probably weren't around when the film first came out, so it's probably hard to imagine the itch this scratched. A little before Suspiria and well before Fire Walk With Me, if you wanted to see a quasi-supernatural, hyper-stylized film about schoolgirls in danger, this was it. Overall, the film seems to have been well received, but whether it was a commercial smash or more of a sleeper cult hit, I really can't say. It clearly stuck with people though, and played an important part of changing the way people thought of Australian cinema on a world stage. Up to that point, Australia was known for randy sex comedies like The Adventures of Barry McKenzie and Alvin Purple, financial hits that got terrible reviews. So jump ahead to 1998. Peter Weir is an A-list director, on the verge of releasing one of his biggest hits that summer. Also released that year was a brand new director's cut of Picnic at Hanging Rock, albeit minus several minutes of footage compared to its original release. Up until this new cut, Picnic at Hanging Rock was relatively difficult to find on home video, particularly in the United States. So when Criterion released the director's cut on home video, it quickly supplanted the original. Not everyone was happy about this either, including Anne-Marie Lambert, Weir's first and third choice for Miranda, and score composer Bruce Smeaton. Both give well-thought-out arguments against the changes in the supplemental documentary A Dream Within a Dream.
I think when you put something out into the world, and somebody buys it or watches it or listens to it or whatever. It becomes theirs. And in a funny kind of way, it wasn't his anymore to fiddle about with.
The first one was a director's cut. Peter did exactly as he pleased. So presumably it's not the film that needed changing, it was Peter had evolved. And I'm not sure whether you should do that or not.
The theatrical version was eventually released on a European DVD set, but it was from a poor quality analog master. It took a remarkable 25 years after the release of the director's cut before the original would be remastered in high definition for a home video release. There's a lot to say about this restoration, particularly its use of apparent AI smoothing, which gives facial features and hair a strange visual texture, and the spaces characters inhabit can take on a flat spatial perspective. But overall this is subtle, if more distracting, than the 4.5 minutes more footage it has compared to its previous home video releases. Although the difference in length is significant, the same unfortunately can't be said for the added footage, which is all pretty much extended shots of characters walking, sitting down, or hanging around. But with this in mind, here are all the differences between the theatrical version's 4K restoration and its previous home video releases. As the girls gather in the schoolyard, some play Ring Around the Rosie as Miss McCraw enters frame before giving Edith the go-ahead to ring the bell. After Mrs. Appleyard dismisses the girls to their picnic, the sequence extends to their boarding the carriage as Mrs. Appleyard watches on. While the director's cut trims this sequence even more, the new restoration includes another static shot of Michael taking tea with his parents. Between Miranda's cutting the cake and Mrs. Appleyard entering the classroom, the establishing shot of her walking the hall is extended to include the camera tilting upward as she ascends the stairs. The scene of the coach driver attempting to get the correct time has 2 additional shots prior to Edith noticing the coach below. After Michael leaves Bertie and follows the girls, we see Bertie grab his hat and coat as he loses sight of Michael. Some footage of his grabbing the hat is in the director's cut, while the shorter theatrical cut goes straight to Michael lurking after the girls. Immediately after this, the transitional shot is stationary before tilting down. Prior to ringing for Minnie, Mrs. Appleyard walks to her desk, sits down, and picks up a piece of paper. The shot of Sarah standing by the coach, realizing Miranda won't be coming back, lingers just a little longer. Footage of the search party beginning to climb the rock has a couple of additional shots. In one of the few extended scenes with any kind of significant dialogue, after examining Edith, the doctor tells Mademoiselle she shouldn't blame herself for what happened. When the sergeant questions Michael, he asks if the girls were aware he was following them, to which he responds he's not sure. Michael then throws Bertie under the bus by mentioning that he'd whistled at them. Immediately after questioning Michael, the start of the scene where the sergeant questions Edith on the rock alongside Mademoiselle is extended.
I was frightened.
Tom sings a little song to himself in the greenhouse before discussing the likelihood of murder with groundskeeper Mr. Whitehead. This audio is mixed into the background of the previous establishing shot in both the director's cut and shorter theatrical version.
Unsolved murders there are.
A policeman shouting into a cave, fully off screen in the other 2 cuts, followed by the camera zooming back as the policemen walk away. The scene of the photographer paparazziing the girls at the school, previously thought to be exclusive to the director's cut. The shot of Bertie packing Michael's carriage followed by their discussion prior to him telling Michael about the dream he had about his sister. This was also previously found only in the director's cut, with the shorter theatrical going straight from Mrs. Appleyard creeping around Sarah's stuff to Bertie mentioning the dream. The start of the skip frame ending is extended, beginning much earlier than the other 2 cuts, which are identical, amounting to roughly 30 seconds more footage up top.
To this day, their disappearance and their governess.
After comparing the two theatrical cuts, I'd wager that the restored version represents the film as it looked in its first run in Australia, and the shorter version represents how it went to the Cannes Film Festival or other territories shortly after. I think Cannes might actually be key here, because it seems to have made some kind of impression there, but, contrary to popular belief, it doesn't seem to have screened in or out of competition. A summer 1976 Sight and Sound article covering Cannes does feature a brief review, written by Penelope Houston, where Houston spoils the film's open ending and calls out Weir by name for the film's second half having, quote, too many characters, a lonely girl, a young Englishman. I wouldn't be surprised if this didn't spark Weir's determination to remove the Michael-Irma relationship, and if the shorter version was prepared for Cannes, it explains why he wasn't allowed to make any additional changes at the time. It looks like he might even be starting to say something to this effect in the Dream Within a Dream documentary.
The picture was released in Australia and was successful and ready to go overseas and got interest into Cannes. And I thought, here's the chance to get this material out. And the investors didn't want to do it. It was all good-natured, but they said, you want to cut a hit?
I'd like to take a small detour and discuss something I don't generally plan to when doing these comparisons, and that's some of the film's outtakes. They relate to something I don't generally see addressed, though, and that's how the film handles Mrs. Appleyard's role in Sarah's death. In the book, Sarah's guardian, Mr. Cosgrove, does send a check for the missing fees, along with a note that he would be taking her out of the school as she would soon be turning 14. Although Mademoiselle still finds her leaving without her help packing suspicious, Mrs. Appleyard is surprised when they find Sarah's body. Nothing is spelled out explicitly, but the book hints that Sarah, who Bertie says left him when some old geezer took a fancy to her, would have been as unhappy to return to her guardian as the thought of going back to the orphanage. Part of the book's ending, which was adapted and filmed to be a part of the movie, describes Mrs. Appleyard climbing the rock, seeing Sarah's ghost as a rotting corpse, then throwing herself over the rock side. Weir decided this didn't work and cut it, but the raw footage is thankfully included in the recent Second Sight release, and is also on YouTube branded with the NFSA logo. To make room for their confrontation, Weir and Green amplify Mrs. Appleyard's cruelty to Sarah, so that she shared more guilt and deserved her comeuppance. Though I think that removing it was the right choice, it does make her involvement in Sarah's death play out more ambiguously. In the film, Mrs. Appleyard tells Sarah she'll be going back to the orphanage for unpaid dues, and even though she breaks down and cries when she gets back to her office, this is followed by dark, brooding music, shots of the interior and exterior of the school, and the sound of breaking glass, after which Mrs. Appleyard looks through Sarah's things. Although I think there's enough here to infer that Mrs. Appleyard didn't just chuck Sarah off the roof, she does inform Mademoiselle she no longer has to worry about Sarah, and lies that she helped Sarah pack her bags before her guardian took her away that morning. So in the film she's immediately aware of Sarah's death, and tries to cover it up in a way that's certain to be, and is, discovered before it's all over. If someone wanted to, they could recreate the film's original planned ending. In fact, someone already did, using the branded footage posted by the NFSA, and as of this moment it's still up on YouTube. The whole thing fits together surprisingly well, and it's probably pretty close to how it was originally going to end. Unlike the missing book chapter, I do recommend checking it out if you're a fan. It doesn't over-explain anything, and it's interesting how Weir, Green, and apparently Lindsay all had supernatural ideas in mind they decided to take out. As to the three different versions, I can't pretend I'm not disappointed I still can't watch the shorter theatrical version without putting it together myself. I might be biased because it's the first version that I saw, but I think the longer theatrical cut does drag in places, while the director's cut maybe cuts a little too much footage. It's likely Weir is responsible for the shorter theatrical cut. It shares the abridged end of the director's cut, while the material added back to the director's cut shows he wasn't just working from a previously abridged version. I've got to admit I'm also a little disappointed the way that the 4K restorations look overall. Whatever smoothing tools were used on the image were clearly applied with care, but I think any effort to make Picnic at Hanging Rock look like anything other than something that was shot in 1975 is a mistake, and that's exactly what the new bells and whistles imposed on the image do. I can't speak for casual viewers or new sets of eyes, but I think anyone already in love with the film is going to prefer the previous HD releases of the director's cut to the new 4K restorations. So I guess that pretty much covers Picnic at Hanging Rock. If you liked the video, please click like and subscribe, and if you didn't like the video, hey, it was free. But if you extra liked the video, and would like to follow me on my journey of comparing movies, I've started a Patreon, and you can find a link in the description below. I really enjoy researching and making these, but it does take some time and money, so if you can and would like to help out, please check out the different tiers. Thanks for watching, I hope to see you again soon. Made it through without mentioning Zamfir TV commercials or how much I hate HDR.
You've heard his hauntingly beautiful music in movies, on radio and TV. His name is Zamfir, master of the pan flute,